If you're building automation in SmartSuite, you are going to love their trigger that allows you to initiate automations based on some sort of a schedule. In this video, we're going to be diving deep into this SmartSuite automation trigger. So if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting, where we're going to help you get the most possible out of your no-code tools. As I mentioned already in this video, we're going to be going into detail about a special trigger inside of SmartSuite Automations. It's all about the scheduler, being able to schedule automations on some sort of recurring basis. We're going to dive into it here. But before we get into the heart of things, I first want to invite you to join me for some free automation training. Whether you're using SmartSuite or other tools to build your no-code automations, understanding how no-code automation works, this is going to unlock countless possibilities for you. It will allow you to do all those repetitive, mundane tasks in the background. It's going to be handled by automation once you understand how to build it. So go ahead and grab that training at gapconsulting.io/webinar-registration. Once you sign up, you'll get access to it there. But without further ado, let's hop on into my screen and start talking about how we can manage the scheduling trigger inside of SmartSuite. So here I am. Follow along in any SmartSuite solution. For me, I have this example solution here. I'm on my members table. It really doesn't matter too much what table I'm on, because if I'm going to find records, I'll do that in another step. But we'll get to that. Let's take it one step at a time. Where I need to start is obviously in my automations panel. So in order to access that, I'm just going to scroll up here to my solution and click on automations. Now feel free to follow along with me in your own SmartSuite account. If you don't already have one, please consider signing up using our link below. That will be a great way for you to show some love back to the channel. So once I've clicked here, it's going to take me into the automations panel. If I've already created automations, I will see them on the dashboard. If I haven't, I get this nice drop down that says, hey, we're going to create our first automation. And here we are inside of our automation. Now, the first thing we might want to do is rename it. And I'll say test the scheduler trigger. And it's important, of course, if you're new to automation, make sure that you're labeling things appropriately so that you can come back and find them in the future if you need to make changes to your system. All right. Now, every automation is going to break down into two key components. Every automation is going to start with one trigger, and that trigger will initiate the automation. It's the instructions for when the automation starts. Now, once it's done, once the trigger has performed, then everything that follows that is called an action step in your automation. So our trigger is what we're looking at first, and we're going to set up with the scheduled time. This is a native SmartSuite trigger, which means we don't have to go outside of the SmartSuite environment. We can build this trigger right inside of our tool. So I can make this choice, and again, it's going to ask me what table I want to look at. I'm not terribly concerned with what table we're at, only because if I need to look up more information for future steps in the automation, that can be handled here in my action steps. So for me, it doesn't really matter the table all that much. What I care about is the repeating cycle or the frequency that we are able to establish. Now, here's what makes SmartSuite's scheduler trigger so powerful. We have a lot of flexibility in terms of how often we want this thing to recur. I'm going to be breaking down all the different options for you here in this video. But I also want to highlight that we can track multiple days within the same cycle. So for example, if I were just to select multiple days here, note that this is saying I'm going to repeat every week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that's really specific. Not only do we have all that information right here, and we have so much control over the frequency with which we want to repeat, but we also get to say, hey, when do we want to start this? So for example, here I'm recording on the 2nd of May. And so the next time it would start would be Friday, the 3rd of May at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that's what it's telling us right here. If we were to choose that we want today to be the start day for this, the rule will first execute on May 3rd at 9 a.m. And the best part, in my opinion, is that we get to hover over here and see the next 10 runs. So this is basically our ability to test this out without actually waiting 10 different runs. And we can just at a glance take a look and say, is this what I meant to set up or not? So let's take a look now at all the different repetitive options that we have. Note that it's not just weeks. We can repeat these automations on hours. That's pretty darn small. It's a small building block. We can do it on days, repeat it on a set number of days, weeks, months, and then one time. So let's take a look at these one at a time. Hours, first off. If I repeat every 1 hour, then it's going to show me that, okay, the next run is going to be at 3 p.m. and then following again at 4 and 5 and 6, etc. So note that I don't get a lot of control over when I want to skip hours. So unfortunately, we see that I can't come in and say, I only want to run this during business hours. No, I don't have that much control. If I make the selection for hours, it's going to repeat every set number of hours, but it doesn't have to be every single hour. It could be every 2 hours, every 5 hours, every 6 hours. I cannot include decimals here. So if I try to put 6.5, it will be every 65 hours. So let's look at every 6 hours, right? We have 24 hours in a day, so we're going to start seeing stuff repeating. First run will be at 3 o'clock, then at 9, then at 3, then at 9, then at 3, etc. So 3 p.m., 9 p.m., 3 a.m., 9 a.m. Every 6 hours, this automation is going to trigger. Then, of course, whatever we set up in our action steps, that's what's going to be performed. But understand that we're saying we could trigger 4 times a day, literally like clockwork, on these specific hours. Now, breaking this down, let's look at days. Now, for our days, we get to say we want to repeat after every certain number of days at a specific time. So because we are not working at a time granularity inside of our repetition frequency, now we're saying, hey, every set number of days at a particular time. So we could say every 7 days, which would be once a week. We could say every 3 days if we wanted to do that, which is going to be Monday, then Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you get the idea, right? We're waiting, but the core takeaway is it's going to happen at the same time every day, and we can pick that time with 15-minute granularity. We can go down and say 9 a.m. or 8:45 a.m., whatever we want to do. Again, make sure that you're looking here at when you want to start, and if you need to go back in time, you can, right? Let's say back to May 1st, but it's going to say, well, look, if May 1st was the start date that you wanted to do this, the next time I iterate is going to be 3 days later, and that's why it's saying May 4th is when the rule will next be executed, and here are the next 10 runs. Now let's move back into weeks. The thing that I find really fascinating with weeks is that we can set up some sort of, not only are we counting weeks, but we can also say certain days within that week when activated will occur. So this is kind of nebulous, but let's say we did something on Tuesdays and Thursdays every other week. So we would say that like so. Every 2 weeks, we want to iterate, and we want this to occur on Tuesday and Thursday. So 1 week on Tuesday, Thursday, next week off, next week on Tuesday, Thursday, etc., etc. And so that is demonstrated right here. So we're saying, look, if we look at our starting from, the first week is this week right here, right? May 1st, which is half of a week. And then so this week here, May 6th to May 12th is off. The following week is back on. And since it's an on week, we're going to look at Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, 14th. Thursday, 16th. So look at what we get here. That's exactly it. 14th and 16th, Tuesday, Thursday. Then we skip the next week. Then the following week, we're on Tuesday, Thursday again, 28th and the 30th. This is how this one works. Very customizable, right? Wouldn't you agree? I think that we can get really granular with any kind of unusual trigger, any kind of unusual frequency we might have in our organization. Now, we're not quite done. Let's take a look at months as well. Here we can trigger on a specific day of the month. So this is going to happen, let's say, every month on a certain day. It could be on the 4th of the month, and that's how we make the selection right here. We could say we want to do this on the 4th and the 18th of every month. There we go. So this again gives us a lot of granular control. Now the other thing we might want to say is, actually I want it to be on the last day of every month. But because every month has a different number of days, well, we don't have to worry about doing any fancy calculations. We can just say last day of the month. So if it's a leap year and it's February, we're getting the 29th. If it's a regular year, not a leap year, and it's February, we're getting the 28th. Otherwise, we're getting the 30th or the 31st, depending on the month we're in. Really cool options for us here inside of the scheduling trigger for SmartSuite's automations. I hope you give it a shot yourself and see how easy it is to build triggered automations on your schedule. I know we went quick in this video, so do drop any comments you have below. And in the meantime, my friends, keep on building.